Good morning, you are watching A News. I'm Bakhtiar Sonov, and let's see the top stories shaping our world. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says he's pushing ahead with a plan to seize Gaza City. European Union foreign ministers meet on Monday to discuss the upcoming Trump-Putin talks in Alaska. Earthquake in Turkey's northeast Balıkesir province flattens buildings, killing one. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says he's pushing ahead with a plan to seize Gaza City in what he says is the fastest route to defeat Hamas, free hostages and end the war. But global leaders and UN officials warn the strategy may spark a humanitarian catastrophe.
This is the best way to end the war swiftly. That's according to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who is defending his plan to seize control of Gaza City. He says the aim is to dismantle remaining Hamas strongholds, and he says free Gaza, while providing designated safe zones for civilians.
The war can end tomorrow if Gaza, or rather if Hamas, lays down its arms and releases all the remaining hostages. Gaza will be demilitarized. Israel will have overriding security responsibility. A security zone will be established on Gaza's border with Israel to prevent future terrorist incursions. A civilian administration will be established in Gaza that will seek to live in peace with Israel. Israel's Security Cabinet instructed the IDF to dismantle the two remaining Hamas strongholds in Gaza City and the central camps. Contrary to false claims, this is the best way to end the war and the best way to end it speedily.
However, his plan has ignited fierce international condemnation from global powers and United Nations. Representatives from the UK, France, Denmark, Greece, and Slovenia say the plan risks violating international humanitarian law, could endanger the hostages, and would worsen the humanitarian disaster in the Strip.
In Gaza, children and babies are suffering from starvation. Hundreds of civilians have been killed trying to access basic food supplies. This inhumanity cannot be justified. The partial aid access Israel granted in late July has proven woefully inadequate. We have a clear message for Israel. Urgently and permanently lift all restrictions on aid delivery.
I'm extremely concerned over the prolonged conflict, the reports of atrocities and further human toll that is likely to unfold following the government of Israel's decision to expand military operations in Gaza. This marks a grave escalation in the conflict that has already inflicted unimaginable suffering. Now, for over 670 days, Palestinians in Gaza have endured daily killings and injuries. More than 61,000 people have been killed.
Meanwhile, protests are growing across Israel. Thousands have been taking to the streets, warning that the expansion of military operations could put the lives of the remaining hostages at even greater risk.
Meanwhile, the Italian Ministry of Defense carried out its first airdrop humanitarian mission for Gaza. The operation, which will continue during the next few days, aims to ensure that all aid provided by the Italian Ministry of Foreign Affairs and other donors is delivered to its intended recipients. European Union foreign ministers will meet on Monday to discuss the upcoming talks between US President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin, which will happen on Friday in Alaska. The EU's foreign policy chief Kaja Kallas said the United States can pressure Russia to negotiate seriously about ending the war in Ukraine, and that any deal must include Kiev and the EU. She stressed that international law recognizes all occupied lands as Ukrainian, and the deal must prevent further Russian aggression. The ministers will also discuss Gaza. European leaders have welcomed the U.S. efforts to end the war in Ukraine, but insist that peace talks must protect Ukraine's sovereignty and involve Kiev directly. The reaction comes ahead of a planned Trump-Putin meeting in Alaska.
European leaders have given a united response to US President Donald Trump's planned meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Alaska on August 15th. They welcomed efforts to end the war, but said any peace deal must protect Ukraine's and Europe's security and include Kyiv. In a joint statement, leaders from Britain, France, Germany, Italy, Poland, Finland and the European Commission said talks should begin from the current front line, happen only under a ceasefire or reduced hostilities, and respect the principle that borders cannot be changed by force. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky backed the European position after a meeting of security advisers in Britain. His chief of staff, Andriy Yermak, reiterated that Ukraine rejects territorial concessions and that the front line is not a border. Earlier, Trump has suggested the talks could involve territorial swaps, an idea viewed with caution in both Kyiv and European capitals. The Alaska meeting is expected to be bilateral at Putin's request, though Trump says he is open to including Zelensky.
At least 12 people were injured after Russian forces launched guided aerial bomb attacks on Ukraine's Zaporizhia region on Sunday, according to officials. The strikes targeted residential areas, a bus station and a clinic, according to Ukraine's foreign ministry. Rescuers searched through rubble at a heavily damaged bus station, evacuating the wounded. One person was pulled from beneath the debris by emergency workers. Authorities continue to respond amid ongoing conflict in the region. Ukraine and Russia traded fresh strikes overnight, with Kyiv targeting a key defense plant in Russia's Nizhny Novgorod region and Moscow hitting Zaporizhia's bus station and a university clinic, injuring at least 20. The attacks come amid tense diplomacy ahead of the Trump-Putin summit in Alaska, as Zelensky renews calls for tougher sanctions and NATO vows continued military aid. Our Fikrat Dolukhanov reports from Kharkiv, Ukraine.
Ukrainian drones have struck the Arzamas instrument building plant in Russia's Nizhny Novgorod region, a facility producing equipment for the aviation and space industries. Regional authorities confirmed the target was the city's industrial zones. In Zaporizhia, Russian forces launched 2 guided aerial bombs, one hitting the central bus station, the other a clinic at the Zaporizhia Medical University. Local officials say at least 20 people were injured. The strikes come as Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky held a phone call with Azerbaijan's President Ilham Aliyev. They condemned Russian strikes on an oil depot run by Azerbaijan state energy company Sokar in Odessa, as well as strikes on other Azerbaijani energy facilities in Ukraine. Baku has warned it may lift its arms export embargo to Kyiv if such attacks continue. Meanwhile, the White House says any events involving Zelensky during the upcoming Trump-Putin talks in Alaska would likely happen after the two leaders meet. US Vice President J.D. Vance stressed Washington seeks a peace deal based on current front lines and will no longer directly fund Ukraine's war effort, though Europe is free to purchase US-made weapons. Zelensky insists there is no sign of genuine Russian steps towards peace, calling for more sanctions and pressure. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte says arms supplies to Ukraine will continue regardless of Alaska talks, with new commitments already made by the Netherlands and Nordic states. Fikrat Dolukhanov, Elbrus Musaev, Kharkiv, Ukraine.
In March 2022, the Kyiv suburb of Bucha became a symbol of Russian occupation. Survivors share their powerful testimonies, from mass killings and captivity to moments of courage, kindness and resilience. Through their own words, hear how residents risk their lives to protect neighbors, document atrocities and hold on to humanity in the face of brutality. Witness the reality behind the headlines, the stories the world must not forget.
Мой муж каждый день выходил в 8 утра и приходил в 4 дня.
My husband used to leave every day at 8 in the morning and return at 4 in the afternoon, like going to work. By 4 o'clock, I would already be looking out the window to see where he was. By 5, I knew he wasn't coming. I can't even speak about it properly.
Что-то я не могу нормально говорить.
In March 2022, the Kyiv suburb of Bucha became a symbol of Russian occupation. a place where hundreds of civilians were killed and others endured weeks of terror. Survivors are still piecing together what happened and why.
We're
standing now in what's more of a small square or park with trees planted in rows. Each tree bears a tag with the name of someone killed in Bucha during the occupation. On Jablunska Street and the nearby area, around 120 people were killed, either from gunshot wounds or from being denied medical assistance.
The killings did not distinguish between soldiers and civilians. Witnesses say Russian troops opened fire on men, women, the elderly, and even those who supported Moscow.
Apart from killing civilians and patriots, they also killed people who supported the so-called Russian world. Among the dead are people who welcomed their arrival, and yet they killed them anyway.
Amid the danger, residents risked their lives to help others, teaching neighbors how to avoid soldiers, hide in basements, and survive.
Our role during the occupation was to study people's psychology and teach civilians how to behave to survive. We found certain keys, certain strategies during the occupation, and we believe those helped save lives.
The psychological effect of the occupation was so heavy, some people still carry the trauma of those days.
We, the residents, including myself, stayed in the basement. There were so many soldiers that life became unbearable. Over time, my health worsened. I developed a severe stammer. I'm getting treatment now, thanks to those who are helping me.
Some encounters with Russian forces were moments of life or death.
Those men from Bucha, under the barrels of assault rifles, turned around and said, "Don't touch the doctor, let him go." If they hadn't done that, I'd have been taken prisoner too. Only God knows if I'd have survived.
Others remember the surreal mix of war and fleeting humanity.
On 8th March, International Women's Day, even with the war and shelling, I took a crate of flowers to give to women. That's Ukraine for you. The enemy gave us mines. We gave our women flowers.
The physical and emotional scars run deep. Survivors say they cannot forget, but they carry their memories as proof of what happened in Bucha.
Forgetting? No, that's impossible. This story lives with us. The fact we are all standing here alive is nothing short of a miracle.
Ukrainian investigators have identified more than 580 victims so far, with dozens still buried as unknowns and many more missing. For Bucha's survivors, telling their story is part of seeking justice.
This summer, Europe has been battling a wave of wildfires during heat waves, with blazes driving people from their homes, threatening heritage sites and charring landscapes from the Mediterranean to the UK. This weekend, they continued to wreak havoc across Spain, Italy and Scotland.
Wildfires across Europe intensified on Sunday, forcing mass evacuations of people from their homes in Spain, scorching protected forest in southern Italy, and across one of Scotland's most famous landmarks. In Spain's Castile and Leon region, about 1,400 people were evacuated from their homes as flames driven by sudden wind shifts tore through Leon province. The fire reached the town of Carricedo and the UNESCO-listed Las Medulas archaeological site, triggering emergency alerts. Some residents expressed anger over what they saw as inadequate aerial support.
This would have been controlled already if they hadn't taken out the aerial means at 11 a.m. when they left. We understand there are more fires, but they could have left at least one or two refreshing the area, but they took them all, and that's it. Look, it's now already getting into the houses. Look.
Traffic jams formed as residents fled, while emergency crews worked to contain the fast-moving blazes. Another fire in Zamora province prompted evacuations of people from 3 towns, while in Navarra's Carcastillo, helicopters tackled a pine forest fire. In Italy, crews battled for a 3rd day to contain a wildfire in Terzigno's Vesuvius National Park that has destroyed hundreds of hectares of woodland. Steep terrain and strong winds have hampered efforts to contain the flames, which threatens one of Italy's most visited natural attractions. Meanwhile, in Scotland, a wildfire swept across Arthur's Seat near Edinburgh, sending smoke billowing for miles. Police urged the public to avoid the popular tourist spot as crews work to bring the blaze under control.
China is pushing the United States to relax export restrictions on key computer chips used in artificial intelligence, aiming to include this in a trade deal before a potential summit between President Donald Trump and President Xi Jinping. According to the Financial Times, China is urging the United States to relax export controls on high-bandwidth memory chips, essential for artificial intelligence systems such as those made by NVIDIA. China is concerned that current U.S. export rules limit its tech companies, such as Huawei, from developing advanced AI chips, potentially slowing innovation in this strategic field. The United States has limited semiconductor sales to curb China's AI and defense progress. Though these rules impact U.S. companies' access to China's huge market, China remains a key buyer of American chips. The 2025 World Robot Conference is underway in Beijing, where experts have unveiled a blueprint for the future of embodied intelligent robots, machines designed to better perceive, decide, and act in complex environments. The opening ceremony revealed 10 major trends shaping the next generation of robotics.
200 leading robotics companies and over 1,500 exhibits from around the globe. The 5-day World Robot Conference, co-organized by the China Institute of Electronics and the World Robot Cooperation Organization in Beijing, brings together these industry leaders to showcase the latest advances in robotics technology. At the opening ceremony, the conference released its report, 10 Trends of Embodied Intelligent Robots 2025, highlighting the growing role of embodied cognition, powered by physical practice, simulators, and world models.
We hope to expand embodied intelligence towards broader and more advanced applications across society. In the past, robots were largely designed for specialized tasks. In the future, the robots can both generalize and excel in performance.
Experts say the technology has potential in challenging settings, from industrial production to emergency response, and could be transformed by integrating insights from mathematics and neuroscience.
A magnitude 6.1 earthquake struck the Sindirgi district in Balıkesir province on Sunday evening. It caused the collapse of 16 buildings, including 2 mosque minarets, and left 29 people injured. Tragically, an 81-year-old woman died after being rescued alive from the rubble by emergency teams. The quake's depth was recorded at around 10 to 11 kilometers, according to Turkey's Disaster and Emergency Management Authority and Germany's Research Center for Geosciences. It was felt across several provinces, including Istanbul. Dozens of Afghan refugees, including women, children and the elderly, have gathered at Pakistan's Chaman border, preparing to cross into Afghanistan on Sunday. The movement comes amid a government crackdown on documented Afghan refugees, with a September deadline looming for their departure.
Families carrying their belongings waited outside a registration office at the Chaman border in Pakistan's Balochistan province. Some said they were returning home willingly, even describing themselves as happy to go back.
We have been here for 15 to 20 years, running a small shop. But now that the situation here has worsened, and there it has improved, we should return to our country.
Pakistan has ordered all documented Afghan refugees to leave by September 1st, though deportations have already begun, according to the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. More than 2.1 million Afghans have left this year alone, straining Afghanistan's fragile economy. Rights groups have criticised the policy, warning it leaves many refugees in legal limbo. Authorities in Islamabad say only Afghans with valid visas will be allowed to remain. The repatriation drive, part of Pakistan's illegal foreigners repatriation plan launched in late 2023, comes as Afghanistan faces a new wave of mass deportations from Iran, prompting aid agencies to warn of further instability.
Jordan will host a meeting on Tuesday with the U.S. and Syrian officials to discuss support for Syria's reconstruction. The meeting will be attended by Syrian Foreign Minister Assad al-Shibani and U.S. Special Envoy to Syria Thomas Barrack. This initiative aims to help stabilize the region following more than a decade of conflict in Syria. On Wednesday, Damascus signed 12 investment agreements worth $14 billion. Among them are $4 billion deal with Qatar's UCC Holding to build a new airport and the $2 billion agreement with the United Arab Emirates National Investment Corporation to establish a metro system in the Syrian capital. The joint declaration between Azerbaijan and Armenia, signed in Washington on Friday, has drawn praise from world leaders and international organizations.
The joint peace declaration signed in Washington between Azerbaijan and Armenia has been met with broad international approval. NATO called the accord a significant step for regional security, while the United Nations described it as a milestone in normalizing relations. The European Union called the deal a major breakthrough, with High Representative Kaja Kallas praising both sides and the US for progress. Pace. President Theodoros Rousopoulos voiced firm backing, stressing the Assembly's readiness to assist in consolidating the deal and building mutual trust. Across Europe, leaders congratulated Baku and Yerevan on the breakthrough. British Foreign Secretary David Lammy hailed the progress achieved in the talks, calling it an important move toward lasting peace. During Sunday address, Pope Leo expressed hope that the US brokered agreement would bring lasting stability to the South Caucasus. Messages of support also came from Spain, Italy and the Czech Republic. In the region, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan praised President Ilham Aliyev's leadership in advancing a peace agenda for the South Caucasus. Georgian Parliament Speaker Shalva Papuashvili called the agreement a historic step toward reconciliation and regional prosperity. Leaders from Central Asian countries like Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan and Tajikistan also welcomed the deal.
Turkey's Cappadocia Balloon Festival has wrapped up with a spectacular finale. Visitors from around the world gathered to watch dozens of colorful figure-shaped hot air balloons take to the skies over the region's iconic fairy chimneys.
The skies over Cappadocia were filled with colour and creativity as the Cappadocia Balloon Festival came to a close. Part of the Türkiye Kültür Yolu Festival, the event featured 40 figure-shaped balloons from 27 countries, from turtles and penguins to rockets and hearts, all drifting gracefully above the fairy chimneys of Nevşehir. Crowds of both local and international tourists packed the launch areas and valley viewpoints, with festival roads jammed by heavy traffic.
On the
final day, we had a wonderful crowd, about 15,000 visitors from across Turkey and abroad. They came to see our festival balloons, take photos and enjoy the atmosphere. It was a beautiful event, and we hope to hold an even bigger one next year.
Misafirlerimizi de ülkelerine yollayacağız. Seneye daha büyük, daha
The four-day festival was not without challenges. Strong winds grounded flights on Friday and Saturday, but Sunday's clear skies allowed the balloons to fly, landing at various points around Göreme. For many, it was an unforgettable experience.
It's truly something everyone should experience at least once in their life. The atmosphere is incredible, and it's a huge boost for tourism.
Adana'dan geldik. Bu balon festival.
We came from Adana to be part of this excitement. Seeing this atmosphere makes us both happy and proud.
Adana'dan biz de eşlik etmek istedik.
Organisers say they are already planning for next year's edition, aiming for more balloons, more visitors, and even more colour in Cappadocia's skies.
And now to sport news with our Nick Summerby. Nick, good morning. Welcome to the program.
Yeah, good morning. Very excited as well. We're just on the cusp of a new season, and I don't play football anymore, but I'm as excited as a player. So it's going to be happy times ahead. If it was anything like yesterday, where we had the Community Shield, wow, what a game of football that was.
So what was yesterday's Community Shield match between Crystal Palace and Liverpool?
Yeah, it was. Liverpool has spent 300 million in the transfer window. I mean, a lot of teams have spent a lot of money, but they recouped as well nearly 180 million. So they've done good business, and we got to see some of their talent which was on the field. We saw Wirtz, who's a wonderful German international, Etekike. He is leading the line. He got the first goal. But they came up against Crystal Palace, and I've got a bit of a feeling for them. I understand the football club from the South Londoners, that fight, that spirit. They showed that in the FA Cup against Manchester City and were deserved winners. Same again against Liverpool. With all the megastars, what they've got, with all the money, what they've spent, Crystal Palace just had that quality, that grit. It was the first time they won the Community Shield, so it went to penalties. Frimpong got a goal as well, the new signing for Liverpool, and Sarr, who scored 2 goals in the FA Cup final as well. And it went all the way through to the end. Liverpool, Salah missing one of the penalties. There was 3 penalties missed by Liverpool, but Justin Divini eventually got the job done for Crystal Palace. And to see the fans and to see the atmosphere from the Palace fans was really something to, because you look at Europe against money, and you're up against a club which has an unbelievable youth level but brings the right players in, and they have to be very careful with their money. And they have some star players, as they hope they can keep hold of him, Sarr as well. But it's a big performance, and what a great day. And it's mouth-watering. It's the curtain raiser before next weekend when the Premier League starts.
Nick, with the Premier League kicking off next weekend, what are the key talking points and notable transfer news?
Well, it's just strikers and big names and young players, which it's going to take it to another level. I mean, Arsenal last year, their fans weren't happy because they didn't have a centre forward. Well, they've got Gyökeres now. I mean, this is a goal scoring machine. This is what he was playing for Sporting Lisbon. And it took a little bit of time, but eventually they have that number 9. He got his first goal at the weekend, so he's played there. They've got Kepa, Norgard, and they've strengthened their squad. What you've seen with the top 5-6 teams is they've strengthened their squad. Manchester United as well. They've got Sesko as well with Cunha. So there's 2 centre forwards there, and Wemo as well. So Manchester United have shown their strength, even though they had a disappointing season last season. Chelsea as well. João Pedro. There's something about a centre forward when he goes to a club and he starts scoring goals. They are the World Club Cup champions. And I just think Maresca, the job he did in the final against Paris Saint-Germain, Paris Saint-Germain are the benchmark at the moment, and the way he set the team up to beat them, I expect big things from Chelsea as well. Tottenham, obviously, Thomas Frank has come in. He hasn't really spent the money. Son has left the club, but this week they have the Super Cup as well, which is Paris Saint-Germain against Spurs, which will be a little bit of an indication of where they're going to be. But the Premier League, there's young players as well. We know Manchester City as well. They've spent Cherki and Nori, Regindas as well. They've come in. but there's young players. Arsenal, there's one of them there called Matt Dowman. He's 15 years old. When he was young, when he was 13, he was playing in the under-18s. Now, they've been on their pre-season tour, and he's been the light. He's been the player. So there's so many young talents coming through. As a Diffia, who's Brazilian, keep your eye on him as well, 18-year-old for Chelsea. But I can't tell you how excited I am for this season because of this talent, what's come in, the money that's been wisely spent as well. So I can't wait for it to get underway and we can start seeing this talent. And as well, on Sunday is the big game. It's going to be Manchester United versus Arsenal. So we get to see the talent in the opening game at Old Trafford.
Can you provide a brief roundup of news from the major European leagues?
Yeah, well, Kevin De Bruyne went to Napoli. I was really, my eyes were firmly on Italian football. I thought the battle with Inter Milan, Atalanta and Napoli last season really showed the strength in the league. They've had difficult times before in the past, but it looks like it's going from strength to strength. 8 new signings they've got in there. Obviously, Inzaghi is not at Inter, and we saw there was a change straight after the defeat in the Champions League final. Wasn't good enough, so Chivu comes in, and you think with Kevin De Bruyne, if you can get 80% of the quality what we saw from Manchester City in at Napoli with Conte, can they do it again? And the likes of McTominay, what a season he had. And then you go away from that as well. Bayern Munich, is anybody going to stop them? Harry Kane now has got his silverware, and Vincent Kompany as well. What a first year he had. Can he go further? In the Champions League, that is a lot more that is required there when you're at the big club. Obviously, Real Madrid with Alonso, the new manager. We look to see what they did. They didn't win the league last year. They didn't win the Champions League. And when you're at Real Madrid, you're expected to do that. So possibly the pressure's on there. Barcelona, I thought they were looking at the Champions League. And you look at the likes of Lamine Yamal, what a player. They bought Rashford in as well from Manchester United. They've got him on a season loan. Him and Rafinha on that left-hand side is going to be a battle to see who's going to start. But they are going to take some stopping. But as I said before with these young players, Lamine Yamal is the one who is leading it. The game has changed a bit. This is not, we got stuck in this rut of trying to play like Pep Guardiola. And Pep Guardiola can do it because he was successful, but I see it changing. I see the game with these young players, with their enthusiasm, with their endeavour. They're bringing that little bit more excitement. So around the world of football, and obviously as well Paris Saint-Germain, I mean, they are the one who they've really put the benchmark out for what they did last season, from when they went to Anfield with the young players like the Doué, the Dembele, and then all of a sudden doing the job what they did in the Champions League final. I think that's raised the game. I think it's raised the game in all the leagues around Europe and around the world because of the way they approached the game, of how it wasn't the negative, it was about being positive and really getting at teams. So I'm expecting in the world of football, and it's a big year as well. Let's get one thing straight. We have the Arab Cup, we have the African Cup of Nations, and then at the end of the season we have the World Cup as well, which is in Canada, Mexico and America. So these footballers have got a lot of work to do, but it's going to be excitement all the way. And I'll be right over it, not just in Europe with all the sport, but mainly the football, and bringing you up to date with everything in the news. And the transfer window finishes, it's early September, so there's still a lot of business. They talk about Isaac as well. Is he going to go to Liverpool? They've got their funds. They've already put a bid in for 110 million. Are they going to go again, or is he going to go somewhere else in Europe? So there's a lot happening. Garnacho, is he moving? There's a lot happening. So I'll be right across and bringing you the news as soon as I hear it.
So finally, what are the current Formula One driver and constructor standings, and when is the next race scheduled?
Well, it's interesting, really, because it's McLaren all the way. Oscar Piastri is leading the way, but you have to say Lando Norris. Lando Norris, for me, he's won 3 out of the last 4 races, and he is, usually when you have 2 from the same team, one's protecting the other, doesn't seem to be. Lando Norris is the man in form at the moment, and he's right on the heels of Piastri. Verstappen is in 3rd, but he's only had 2 wins. You know, you look at Oscar Piastri with 6 and Lando Norris with 5. You know, they are well ahead, and it's about who can catch up. You look at the likes of Ferrari. It's been a bit of a disaster, really, for Lewis Hamilton. They've not even won a race yet. So you've even all the way through. I've mentioned a lot about Ferrari with the team, with Lewis Hamilton, with his experience. Why has it not happened? He's come out with stuff saying, "Well, I'd get rid of me and I'd bring somebody else in." Don't know if that was a little bit of tongue in cheek, but It's not been good enough. They've been blaming the bottom of the car. It's not right there. So Ferrari, it'd be interesting to see how they finish the end of the campaign and what they're going to do to move forward. But races coming up. The next one is the Dutch Grand Prix, then the Italian Grand Prix, and then Azerbaijan on the 21st. So it's all about the McLaren team at the moment. It seems to be a matter of when they're actually going to win it, but can any of the others catch up? Can't catch up to them and try and really get into the mix.
Nick Summerby, thank you very much for the comprehensive sports update. Thanks a lot. That's all for now. Stay tuned to A News and have a wonderful morning.